thanks for being here. Now, just in case there are people here who don't know what modern monetary theory is, sometimes called MMT, I'll give you a very brief outline. Contrary to what we're usually told, our government doesn't need to tax or borrow in order to have money to spend. The government is the issuer of the currency, so it doesn't need an outside source of money. And as it's the issuer of the currency, there's no financial limit to how much it can spend. As Stephanie Kelton, one of the founders of MMT, says, there's plenty of problems to solve: climate, poverty, homelessness, etc. But the national debt is not a problem that needs solving. When we ask how will the government raise the money to pay for these things, we're asking the wrong question. Because the Australian government, for example, can never be short of Australian dollars. So that's a very brief overview by way of introduction. And in a way, this talk is a personal history of how my involvement in the new economics movement came about. Back in the 1970s, I was studying architecture when someone lent me a book of essays by Alan Watts. This one here. Watts was an influential philosopher of the time, a spokesperson for the developing counterculture. There was a new culture emerging, a rebellion against outdated paradigms, and Alan Watts was an important figure helping to develop this new worldview. The first essay in the book was titled Wealth versus Money, and reading it was a revelation. I felt like I was discovering something of deep significance, and to this day it continues to inspire me. The essay is about how we confuse symbol with reality, using money to illustrate the point. Money being a symbol that we, to our great detriment, confuse with the reality of wealth. Perhaps at that stage I should have switched my studies to the economics department. I didn't, thankfully, but from that moment, a desire was born in me to understand and communicate what Alan Watts was saying about money, work, and the craziness of our shared financial and economic paradigms. Now, not long after reading the essay, I had a dream. The dream was simple in story, but complex in meaning. And the dream was set in a bank, and I'm going to show you a picture of it. Hang on a second, I'll just, Okay, so along one wall was a row of bank tellers, and at each teller there was a long queue of people, so that the whole room was filled with these queues. And I was at a side wall over here, wanting to make my way across the room, which meant I'd have to pass through each of the queues. Now, the way I understand this dream is that the lines of people at the teller's window represent our money-fixated culture. And Alan Watts' essay gave me an insight that set me on a path at right angles to this prevailing paradigm. And now, crossing through these queues, it's not so simple. It involves pushing one's way through lines of people. That is, navigating through a cultural paradigm that over time has become hardwired into our collective psyche. And I'm not separate to this culture. So in passing through one of these queues, there's a tendency to lose oneself in the paradigm. For example, I may see that we now have the means to end global hunger and poverty, but the lines of people exert a strong influence. The economic paradigm incentivizes other things. There's no money in feeding the hungry. So merging with the conventional paradigm, I'm forced to deaden my empathetic nature. And over the years, I struggled to explain to people what I heard Watts saying in the essay. It's only been in the past few years that the emergence of modern monetary theory has helped give me language to ground Watts' ideas. I could put it this way. Alan Watts was a philosopher. His insight came from taking the big picture view, that is, the whole social, economic, and spiritual perspective. Modern monetary theory, on the other hand, emerged from economists embedded in the economics profession. In terms of my dream analogy, MMT is in one of the queues, and through its insight has opened up a way that means much less pushing is required to move through the queues. Both perspectives are important and need each other for real change to occur. The big picture philosophical view and the on-the-ground practical application. Now, I'd like to read some extracts from the essay, and I can't cover everything he says here. So just remember, if you read it later, it was written 50 years ago. So some of it's dated, but the essential parts are still just as relevant. In the essay, Watts speaks about the confusion of money and wealth as a fundamental obstacle that prevents us from making use of our technological expertise to create a world where there's enough for everyone. Money, he says, is an abstract symbol, similar in nature to centimetres, grams, hours, and lines of longitude. It's a method we've developed to measure and utilise wealth, but it's not the wealth itself. True wealth is the real stuff, the actuality of clean air and soil, raw materials and products, and technical and creative expertise. All too easily, he says, we confuse the world as we symbolise it with the world as it is. And he goes on to develop the argument using an analogy that goes to the core of what he's pointing to. And I'll read from the book now. Remember the Great Depression? One day there was a flourishing consumer economy, and the next, unemployment, poverty, and breadlines. What happened? The physical resources of the country, the brawn, and raw materials were in no way depleted, but there was a sudden absence of money, a so-called financial slump. It was just as if someone had come to work on building a house, and on the morning of the depression, the boss had said, "Sorry, but we can't build today. No inches." What do you mean, no inches? We've got wood, we've got metal, we've even got tape measures. Yeah, but you don't understand business. We've been using too many inches and there's just no more to go around. This ingrained and archaic confusion of money with wealth is now the main reason we are not going ahead full tilt with the development of our technological genius for the production of more than adequate food, clothing, housing, and utilities for every person on earth. Naturally, such outrageous proposals will raise the old cries. But where's the money going to come from? Or who pays the bills? But the point is that money doesn't and never did come from anywhere, as if it was something like timber or iron or hydroelectric power. Again, money is a measure of wealth, and we invent money as we invent the Fahrenheit scale of temperature. This obviously ludicrous predicament has heretofore been circumvented by increasing the national debt, a roundabout piece of semantic obscurantism by which a nation issues itself credit or purchasing power. It is generally supposed that a country with a large national debt is spending beyond its income and is well on the road to poverty and ruin. no matter how enormous its supplies of energy and material resources. This is the basic confusion between symbol and reality, here involving the bad magic of the word debt. But national debt should properly be called national credit. By issuing national or general credit, a given population gives itself purchasing power, a method of distribution for its actual goods and services. Mind you, I write of these things as a simple philosopher and not as a financial or economic expert bristling with facts or figures. But the role of the philosopher is to look at such matters from the standpoint of the child in Hans Andersen's Tale of the Emperor's New Clothes. He sees people wasting material wealth for lack of purely abstract counters called dollars or pounds or francs. From this very basic, or if you will, childish point of view, I see that we have created a marvelous technology for the supply of goods and services with a minimum of human drudgery. Isn't it obvious that the whole purpose of machines is to get rid of work? When you get rid of the work required for producing basic necessities, you have leisure, time for new and creative explorations. But with the characteristic blindness of those who cannot distinguish symbol from reality, we allow our machinery to put people out of work, not in the sense of being at leisure, but in the sense of having no money and having shamefacedly to accept the miserable charity of public welfare. The sole rational solution would be for the community as a whole to issue itself credit, money for the work done by the machines, provided that the amount issued was always proportionate to the real wealth being produced. So that's all I'll read for now. And I'm sure you can see the parallels to MMT here. And when I first read the essay and tried to tell people what I heard, they'd say, "You want to change the whole economic financial system? Dream on." And I understood what they were saying. This was big, and I was not expecting to see real change in my lifetime. But I did keep dreaming. The emergence of MMT has rekindled my hope, not because I think they have all the answers, but because they offer a pathway whereby these ideas can begin to be instituted relatively easily. A pathway that is being accepted and taken more and more seriously by the economic establishment. For me, what is really momentous about this development is that it's helping to break the nexus between money and survival. Money and survival have become so entangled in our economy that it seems impossible to separate them. Like the proverbial Gordian knot, so entwined that practically speaking for most of us, there's no difference between them. Because we treat money as if it's the source of our survival, we create a reality in which it becomes that. And that creates the incentive to go for money first. It enslaves us. It becomes a perverse incentive where we can do things like destroy a very global support system in the name of survival. You can see this when our government says they will not act on climate change if it hurts the economy, or when someone cuts down a rainforest for the sake of making money. And I want to share a quote here. Let me see. It's my dream. There's the quote. "Could anything be more insane than for the human race to die out because we couldn't afford to save ourselves?" And that quote, in a way, that's the Gordian knot we're facing. And when modern monetary theory points out that on a government level, there's no such thing as a shortage of money, they are, in effect, cutting the Gordian knot and putting money and survival into their right places. What we do with this opening is another matter. Going by past history, there's a danger of us stuffing up the opportunity. I'm a member of the Inner Dimensions of the New Economy Hub, and I believe an essential ingredient in getting this to work is a shift in consciousness. Now, looking at my dream again after all these years, I saw something I hadn't noticed before. This is all contained in 4 walls of a bank in a rectangular box. But reality is much, much bigger than that. Economics is contained within life, not life within economics. So I made a slight change to the dream to make the picture more complete. From dream to dreaming, one could say. And on that note, I'd like to give the last word to one of our Aboriginal elders.
Some of the most generous people I know have no money. And that's how it should be. When we have no money, it's a different lifestyle. When you see the old people, there was no, in our language we have no such word as please or thank you, because it is what is expected of us is that we share and we give what we have. Today we have to say please, we have to say thank you, we have to beg for things. In the old days it was just a giving thing that we would share things. That was a part of who we are. And not only for Aboriginal people, I expect people all around the world would do the same things before money. But nowadays it's mine. There are words like mine. There was no such word as mine in my culture. It is ours. It is a collective. It belongs to all of us. But today we have I, me, mine. And we don't share, we don't give free of our spirit, we don't share our things anymore. And it kills us as human beings, as a society, as a race. When I say race, I'm talking about the human race. But we deny other people shelter, we deny other people food, we deny other people their survival purely because of money.
And that's that. Thank you.